Hey there, and welcome to the first episode of Why Dietetics. This is me, your host, Riley Burns. Guys, before I introduce the guest and the rest of the episode, let me just tell you, today I worked a 4 a.m. shift at my job. I worked 4 to noon, and my body was not prepared. Oh my goodness, I have the worst headache, and all I want to do is curl up and watch Schitt's Creek. But I wanted to get this interview to you and to finish up this episode before I hit the sack for tonight. And man, it's looking like I'm going to go to bed at like 7 p.m. Anyways, today I had the privilege of interviewing my friend and classmate, Julia Stankowski, aka the Balanced Buffalonian on Instagram. In this interview, we go into the 2024 master's degree requirement for incoming RDs, our personal struggles with chemistry, social media endeavors, and the huge issue of diversity in dietetics, and share some clinical experiences that we've had thus far. In addition, we also share Julia's why, talk about her relationship with food and nutrition growing up, and I just think that you'll find it is a refreshing episode whether you are a student or just somebody who wants to hear other people talk. I get it. I'm there. I pretend I have friends with podcasts too. What? Anyways, I hope you enjoy. Before we get started, Julia and I do talk about disordered eating in this episode, so I wanted to include a trigger warning. The conversation is brief, but there are some specific details that may be triggering to anyone who is struggling with or who has struggled with an eating disorder or any form of disordered eating and dieting. With that, I am going to let the interview speak for itself. Everybody please welcome Julia Stankowski, aka the Balanced Buffalonian. Introduce yourself, Julia.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you. I was so excited when you asked me to be your first guest. That was exciting. My name's Julia Stankowski. I go to Duville with Riley. We're both in the same dietetics program, same classes. I mean, it's a small school, small program, so not a shock. Like she said, too, I run my own Instagram account called Balanced Buffalonian, which has been a ton of fun, and it's growing, so it's nice to see my little baby blossoming and looking forward to see where it goes.
Awesome. So I have like some basic talking points just laid out to start with. Obviously the conversation can kind of go anywhere. And we don't have to get to all of them, but just to start out, what is your first like memory related to food and nutrition?
I mean, food, like I could be like, oh, since I was a baby, I've required food, as every baby does. But no, I mean, food was always really big in my household. Coming from an Italian family on my mother's side, sauce Sundays are a big thing. I mean, we have like a family cookbook, honestly, like with all of our family's recipes that we've just accrued over the years. That's like a ton of fun. And then even on my father's side too, like when I think of family and food, I think of holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas and like the food that we would make there. We'd always have like a pie night the day before Thanksgiving to like make our family pies for the day. Yeah, so that's definitely food. And then nutrition, first thoughts about that, probably in high school, when I really started thinking about, like food isn't just food, it does so much for your body. And I really started to explore nutrition when I was on my kind of own, I guess, recovering, or like, still in the process of recovering from like really disordered eating patterns and habits, and just kind of learning and educating myself on like, okay, no, I can't continue these habits and patterns. I will run myself into the ground. And just learning like how amazing and fascinating food and nutrition is and what it really does for your body and how it can impact so many different things. I mean, from daily function to mental health to gut health. I mean, everything. Your mood. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Kind of going off of that, like give us a rough timeline of your relationship with food from like your first memories surrounding it through, you mentioned like a brief disordered eating period, to like where you are now when you decided to go into dietetics.
So definitely like when I was younger and like able to recognize food, like I remember probably being around 4 or 5 and like starting to interact more in the kitchen with my mom or like even my dad and grandparents and aunts and whatnot. Mixing the bowl and like stirring the batter, whatever I needed to do, just to, be a part of the process.
Yeah.
And then my disordered eating habits, I mean, I can't pinpoint exactly when they started because I'm sure it's so many things that accrued over time and developed into it.
Always. Lots of factors.
Yeah. But probably, it was probably like, I'd say sophomore year of high school, when things started to get pretty, like, noticeably bad. And of course, it's always like now looking back at pictures, like at the time I was like, oh my God, I was like huge, like I'm so gross, blah, blah, blah. And now looking back, I was like, oh, I was too skinny. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and that kind of went on for a while. There were some pretty bad moments, and that, like, it kind of kept spiraling, like, slowly throughout the end of high school. And then sophomore year of college, I was looking to go to study abroad the following year, my junior year. So this is just for, like, clarification. Like, obviously I'm in school now at DUville. This is what I consider my grad school. Mm-hmm. So undergrad would be at Canisius College. And again, sophomore year, was looking into studying abroad the following year, my junior year, to Florence. And was having some really low moments. Hit a big low the summer going into my sophomore year, where I was physically, like, tallying, like, making tally marks on, like, with a Sharpie on my arm, with, like, oh, I ate good this, like, today. Like, I ate so many calories. I worked out for so long. Today was a good day. And I would try to have as many days in a row as I could. And then I would punish myself when I'd had a slip-up day, and I'd have to wash my arm off, and I kept it very secretive. I don't know how, because it was the summer, and Sharpie. I mean, yeah, it didn't make sense, but it happened. And then hit a very low point sophomore year, and then my parents kind of found out, which looking back was a good thing because they needed to know. I went to therapy, which I was totally against at first, but therapy is amazing.
Therapy is fantastic. 10 out of 10 would always recommend.
Yeah. I mean, definitely find the therapist that suits you. I was lucky enough to find it on, like, the first get-go. Mm-hmm. And I think, too, like, I was, like, kind of against therapy in the first place because after my mom had passed away when I was younger, I went to, like, I was pushed into grief counseling.
Right.
And for me at the time, I'm like, no. Like, this woman, like, I was 8 years old. Like, that's not, I get my family was trying to do right by me, but, like, it totally turned me off to therapy.
That's fair.
But, yeah. So therapy was super helpful, and then that's when I kind of realized, too, like, at that point in college, I was undecided, but in the health and wellness major, because I knew I wanted to do something along the lines of that. I found it really fascinating. Mm-hmm. And once I started going to therapy and kind of recovering, I was like, oh my God, there's a whole field called dietetics where I can learn about food and nutrition and then counsel others who may have had problems like I had, or just general nutrition related problems. So that kind of led me into my journey, and it was quite a process because I still had to graduate from Canisius, obviously. Was slightly misadvised. So I had to take a year off between Canisius and DUville to get all my chemistries in, which I did it. Got a C+ in organic chemistry, and I moved on, and I haven't remembered a single damn thing, and that's okay.
You don't really have to.
You really don't.
In large part, if anybody out there is like, oh my God, dietetics, that's way too much chemistry. It's all right. You need it, but not that much.
People always told me, like, you're either really good at Gen Chem and suck at organic chemistry, or you're really good at organic chemistry and suck at Gen Chem. Mm-hmm. So as long as you can get through some part of it, you'll work your way through the rest. Like, it'll be fine.
Absolutely. And then you have to take biochem, and then it just spirals.
Yeah, it gets worse, but it gets better. It's fine.
It gets better
Everything's
eventually.
Fine.
But it's really interesting to hear how, like, the arc from when you discovered, like, disordered eating behaviors and towards recovering from them, and how that kind of pushed you into nutrition rather than making you kind of recede from it. Mm-hmm. It's really cool that you kind of took that and you decided that you wanted to help other people who dealt with the same types of things as you, which is really wonderful. Did you get to study abroad in Florence? You did, right?
I did, and it was the best time of my life, and I missed it every single day.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. And, like, once I was there too, like that's when like, I mean, I was going to therapy all up until that point when I left, obviously. But like when I was there, I was like, this is like what I've been missing out on, because I've been restricting myself and holding back from certain things because of these like protruded thoughts and horrible like patterns I was, you know, following. And I was finally enjoying myself, and I was there alone too. I knew no one going into the program in Florence that year, and I met some amazing people. And I mean, just to learn about myself too, and to be in Italy. I mean, you really can't complain when you like see the Duomo every single day, and you're like, oh, cool.
I mean, of all of the places to like go on a self-discovery journey, I feel like Italy is probably the best.
It was my eat, pray, love. It's fine.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you eat like all of the food?
Yeah, so I am a pescatarian, but I started introducing like some meats before I left, so I wouldn't, because I wanted to try things. Like even now I'm not so restrictive that I won't be like, you can't try that at a cool restaurant where you're like trying new food. Like I'll eat little bits here and there of meat, especially things like holidays too. Like if my grandpa's making sauce and meatballs, I'm not eating a meatball.
Exactly.
But yeah, and everything just tasted better in Italy and Europe. I mean, there's a lot less GMOs and preservatives, which is, I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely, everything kind of feels homemade, even if it's not, even if you know darn well that it's definitely not. Like when I was in Europe, I would eat bread out of like plastic packaging and be like, wow, this is the greatest bread I've ever tasted in my life. It's not any different, but it feels different because the experience was better.
And I took 2 cooking classes.
Oh, amazing.
And so like, it was just incredible.
That is incredible. Wow. What do you mean by you were misadvised from Canisius going into dietetics? Just like as to like what the program is? Is there a story there?
Yeah. So my advisor from Canisius, there wasn't really a lot of like dietetics people there that wanted to go towards a program like that. And I don't think my advisor really knew much about the field or much about what was required for me, and part of that falls on me too, because I should have been looking more into that. But like I was 20 years old, like what the hell do I know? Right. And like an advisor is supposed to advise you. So I was just following along like, yeah, sure, that works, that's great. But it was only 3 classes that I missed, so it really wasn't awful.
Yeah, so it was all of your chemistries basically. Wow, what a year that must have been for you.
Gen Chem was fine. I loved Gen Chem.
Yeah.
That was fine. Organic I took during the summer, and that...
It's just so much information in like 6 weeks.
And my professor, like, he was a good guy, but kind of psychotic the way he taught, which I feel like you have to be kind of crazy to teach organic chemistry. But again, he was really nice and helpful. But, like, I'd ask a question, and then he would just, like, answer it with a question. And I was like, we're just going to go in circles until you tell me the answer. Because I know nothing.
Well, half the time with organic chemistry, there's, like, more than one option. So how do you expect, like, to grade? It was kind of a mess. My professor was an industry guy. So he spoke, like, every moment of his life. He was, like, first of all, he hated organic chemistry. He was a physical chemist. And I was like, what are you...
So how'd you get here? Yeah.
And, like, a lot of my class ended up being dietetic students. Most of them went to RIT.
Okay.
And he learned that and then was just, like, trying to awkwardly cater everything towards food, which was very cool of him, but made no sense. So, yeah, it was kind of a mess. I feel like organic is just a wild ride for everyone who has to go there.
And again, in, like, a 6-week period of time, like... Yeah. That's not enough time.
No, not at all.
Organic chemistry.
I needed 6 months to, like, truly grasp what was being said to me.
Even with that long, I would never fully grasp it.
Right.
If I took organic chemistry every day for the rest of my life, I could still tell you nothing.
That'd be so funny. I can't even imagine, like, a career in a hard science field. Anyways, I mean, I guess we are in a hard science field. But
like, we're a collection of the hard sciences.
Right,
so
we use all of them.
Yeah.
Like little
dietetics
pieces of
does a lot. And
yes.
We're underappreciated.
I fully agree.
That's a discussion for another day. It's fine. Oh my god, even just the spelling. It's really not a hard word to spell.
There's 2 T's.
That's it, yeah.
There's no C. Not Not, well, I guess in, like, the Australian spelling, I think there's a C.
But that's Australia. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's totally chill. But here, and it's also not dietary. We are not dietary.
No. Or, like, I'll tell people, like, yeah, I'm going to school to be a registered dietitian. And they're like, huh? And I'll be like, nutritionist. And they're like, oh, my God, okay. I'm like,
I know. It was funny because, like, yesterday in supervised practice, I guess I should call her clinical instructor, even though she's also one of our professors, was like, be prepared to answer that question every day of your life. You will get so tired of it, and you won't know how everyone doesn't already know what the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian is. But you will have to explain it to everyone forever.
I don't mind explaining the difference, but, like, how do you not, like, guess from, like, context clues, like, dietitian? The word diet is in the word. In the word, yes. Yeah, you would think, but it's fine.
It's so... Anyways, thank your local dietitian. Give them a hug. They probably need it.
Or, like, extra money because, again, we are fiscally underappreciated as well.
Oh, fiscally very underappreciated. Mm-hmm. I think this is a fun thing to touch on. How do you feel about the master's degree requirement for dietitians? Do you have an opinion on it?
I think master's degrees can be great for some, and, like, for others it's just kind of like you're spending extra money just to have another piece of paper with your name on it.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's important for dietetics. I mean, we're a hard field, like we were talking about. We take a lot of the hard sciences, anatomy, and physiology, chemistry, biology, and not to, like, rule people out, but I mean, we're serving individuals, whether that's in a hospital or private practice. Like, you want the best care. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I take it. So if it takes that extra step, but then there's a whole other issue of, like, grad school's expensive. How do you afford it without going into, like, a ton of debt?
Yeah.
So,
and the fact that we have a huge internship that's not paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. Especially for anybody who's, like, looking to get into the field now. Anybody right out of high school is definitely going to have to go through grad school.
Oh, yeah. And luckily enough, like, at DUville, it's combined into the program, and it's the same tuition as undergrad.
It's honestly great, that aspect.
Because that tuition, private school tuition, she ain't cute.
It doesn't get any better.
No. It literally only gets worse every year.
Yeah, I think the master's degree requirement could lead to a lot of really good things. I think it's a little problematic just because it doesn't guarantee us better pay. I mean, like, there's definitely some areas I feel like a master's degree should be required for. Like, certain different specialties. How do you learn that much in 4 years? And then, I guess, continuing education. But, man, there are some, like, really difficult sides of, like, what we're learning that...
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Blow my mind. Like, renal, I will never understand. I mean, I probably will.
But there's so many different factors. I mean, even just, like, the health of our nation is a huge issue. And I'm sure there's going to be... And especially now, even with COVID, like, there's going to be a ton of complications probably from that. So that's a whole new aspect of learning that we're going to have under our belt, so...
Yeah. You truly never stop. Like, it'll always be, we'll always be in the research and, like, trying to figure out what the best practice is going forward, which I think is really cool. It opens it up to, we'll never get bored.
Yeah, I like that it's a continuously learning thing. Because, I mean, that's what human health is. It's never just one simple solution. Because if it was, then we'd be all living to, like, 150.
Exactly.
And nobody wants that, honestly. I don't want to be, like, saggy and, like, Anyways, I don't want to be, like, a pile of bones. I think of, like, that episode of SpongeBob where it's, like, the chocolates, like, and she's, like, just, like, the spine.
Yeah.
I imagine that's how we'd be at 150, and
probably.
I don't like that.
That would probably be about right.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, let's chat a little bit about your alter ego, the Balanced Buffalonian. How did you come up with that? And it's almost like a year old now, isn't it? Your account?
It'll be a year in January, so we are coming up. It's about, my baby's about 9 months old. She's just starting, to crawl. I don't know if that's a milestone. I don't remember. But yeah, so I've been thinking about it for a while. It was something that, like, I was, like, going back and forth on because I do really like one, I love making my own food and cooking food and sharing recipes and taking photos of it. I don't care if that's annoying. I like taking photos of it because food is beautiful. But I also really love Buffalo, and, like, the food scene we have is phenomenal. I mean, where, like, you really don't find the food that we have here in many other cities. And such a diverse amount of it, too. Plus, we just have great restaurants. Like, we really, really do.
Yeah.
So, my cousin, actually, I'll do, like, a little shout-out to her, Buffett Foodie.
Oh, she's your cousin?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I just thought you guys were like food friends.
No, yeah, so she's my cousin. So she
Aw.
started hers, and, like, she's had her own journey through food and things like that. But she's a foodie. How can you not be, again, with Buffalo food? So she highlights, like, all the local Buffalo food spots. So, like, I was kind of inspired about that, but I wanted to make it more personal and more my own, too. And I came up with the name Balanced Buffalonian because my theory, like, with nutrition and life in general is all about balance. Like, we're never going to be perfectly 50-50 in anything we do. That's just not, it's not all black or all white. There's always gray area. And I think just finding that balance, especially in your diet too, is important. And you should be able to enjoy foods and eat what you want, but also know that, like, I need to fill my body with nutritiously dense food because I need to sustain my health. I need to perform daily functions, and I want to just be, in general, healthy and live a long, healthy life and avoid as much disease and health concerns that I can. And nutrition can play a huge role in that. So that's where I came up with the idea. And then I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was going back and forth, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And then I created it, and I did it. And it's been so fun ever since.
I adore it. It's, you, like, have the best dinner inspiration always.
Thank you.
If I'm ever confused as to, like, what to eat, I'm like, oh, or what restaurant to go to, you don't even know how many times I've been like, where did Julia go recently?
I keep a running list on my phone, like, obviously separate from my Instagram, of just, like, Buffalo brunch, Buffalo breakfast, Buffalo lunch, Buffalo dinner, Buffalo dessert, like, Buffalo coffee. Like, I just keep a running list, and I'll update it as maybe, like, some restaurants close or things change. So, yeah, I definitely, if you ever need recommendations, I got you.
I was gonna say, I think I definitely have that list on my phone. I think you sent it to me in, like, Principles of Nutrition last year.
I think I did, yeah. I can send you the updated version.
Okay, I would really love that, honestly.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in Buffalo, too, right? So you've been here.
Correct, yep, my whole life. And I love Buffalo. I think one day I might leave, but I know I can always come back to, because it is home, and it will always be a home to me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of world to explore.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You could take it worldwide. Take the Instagram worldwide. But don't give up the handle, because it's really good.
Oh, never. Thank you. It was really troublesome finding some good ones, because some people just have, like, good names that, like, work with, like, that rhyme with things. I'm trying to think of some. I don't know. But, like, Julia, there's not much rhyming word there, and, like, I don't want to be, like, J-U, like, Jew, because that's, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you know what I mean. It's just, like...
Yeah, but, like, that's just not what you go by.
No one calls me, like, hey, Jew, or hey, Jules. Like, I'm not a Jules, I'm a Julia.
Yeah.
Don't call me Julie, because my name ends with an A.
Never have I seen you get as angry as fast as when someone accidentally calls you Julia.
Like... What were we, on Zoom with our one professor, and, like, my face wasn't showing, so you can see my full name, and it says Julia Stankowski, and he's like, oh, Julie.
And it was, like, late into the semester, too.
Yes, and, like, he knew my name, but, like, I don't know if it's easier to call me, whatever.
It's
so, yeah,
really
like,
not hard to say the A.
No,
the A is
and,
not
like,
hard.
No, and I had a nickname growing up that was, like, Juju or Juge, like, J-U-J, so I thought maybe, like, oh, like, Juju Eats or something, but, like, that felt, like, childish, too.
I get it,
so
yeah.
Instead of just, like, a J-U or J-U-J or J-U-L, I needed my whole, like, name, or I needed none of it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's hard to, it's difficult to come up with creative handles that haven't already been used, too. But you nailed it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
It's so good. Where do you want to take that platform in the future? Are you planning to stay just on Instagram, or do you have any, like, ideas of where you want to expand to?
I think I would like to do a website with it. I get Instagram, and I know how to work Instagram because we were kind of born in that generation where, like, Instagram was created with us, so we all learned at the same time. So I really like that platform a lot, and I think I definitely want to stick with that for as long as I can. But yeah, like I said, one day I think a website would be super fun, and I could post more than just like a quick Insta post or something, and I can really go into detail about some things. But with school right now, being as busy as it is, I don't see a website happening for probably until we graduate.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly have never been as busy as I am right now.
Yeah, it just never ends.
Nope, truly
Never
never. I guess I get it. Like, we're in the graduate portion for sure. But man, sometimes I'm like, I could use a day, just one day, where I am done with everything, caught up fully.
Yeah, I've been telling myself, like, I wish there was 8 days a week.
Yeah.
Because I just need, like, one day to be like, Julia, sit down. Read a book.
Yeah.
Make some tea. Don't rush. Like,
right.
Put a face mask on. Self-love, self-care.
Right.
But, like, no, we have 7 days, and a majority of those days are very busy, and I have to catch up, and then I'll be like, yeah, I'm caught up, and then I'm like, no, I'm not. It's fine. But it's fine. We're going to push through. We'll be okay.
Yeah. I just have to call it quits at some point. At 11:30 p.m., I'll be just like, okay, here's the rest of my, okay. No. Put it down. Go to sleep.
Yeah. In days after clinical, I really don't do any work.
Good. That's awesome.
Because it's like a full-time job for
really
a day.
Is. Yeah,
it's 8 hours a day. And, like, yesterday was a crazy day. It was a good day, but, like, we were going the whole time. I think I ate lunch for, like, 20 minutes, and I was like, I just want to go back up and keep going.
Yeah.
And then we went until, like, around 4-ish. And then after, I just, like, had to come home and, like, lay on my bed. And, like, that's fine, too. So, like, acknowledging those moments where, like, I know I need rest and I know I need to stop. And that's all my mind can physically do in a day.
Oh yeah, it is a lot. How many patients are you guys seeing at the hospital?
Yesterday we only saw 2.
Okay.
We had another assignment to do too, like a medication review.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that was actually kind of nice because we're talking about common medications that a lot of patients will either be on or will hear of. And just kind of going through like what they do, some side effects, what it may interfere with. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just depends. Probably by next week we'll probably be seeing like 3 or 4 in a day. I feel like that's the most we will get to though.
Yeah, I definitely think that like I could maybe, because the way we've been doing it is like groups of 2 and each of us take one and do one ourselves, and then we're with the other person while they do theirs. And it takes a couple, like an hour and a half for me to confidently like go through the chart at this point and figure out what's going on, get a full picture of their state before going in even. So
yeah, no, I mean definitely just looking at the medical record and like going through everything, it takes a lot because you want to know as much as you can before you get in the room.
Yeah.
And like the one day I had the hiccups, it took me an extra like 15 minutes just for the hiccups to pass before I was like, okay, I can now go talk to a person without being like
That's
so obnoxious. It was so obnoxious.
Those are things you never think about going in either. Like,
no.
Or how dehydrated I would be because there's just not a water fountain near. Or how, like, do you experience that too?
Yeah, all of the water fountains do not work because of COVID. And, like, I could go down 4 floors to find a water fountain, like, in the cafeteria. But that's, like, I'm doing stuff. I'm in the movement. So I think I'm going to get, honestly, like, a 40-ounce water bottle and just chug and chug and chug.
Put a Camelback on under your white coat. Just, like, keep it, like, get a white one so you can't see through. And then just sip on it.
Just have a nurse hook me up with, like, an IV drip and just carry that with me.
Walk with the pole around.
Yeah.
How much interaction? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I can relate to the patients on IVs, you know?
Oh, right.
Build up that rapport.
Totally. Oh, yeah. I love that. Like, the rapport that's just being like, you have a needle in your arm. Same.
Like, hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Pull a Paul Rudd.
That's so funny. I love it. How much, like, interaction have you had with nurses or other healthcare professionals so far? Have you talked to any of them?
I talked to a nurse yesterday. And And it went kind of well. It seemed like a really busy time, like a really busy day for everyone.
Yeah.
So I didn't say too much. I was just asking about a patient's weight because we were kind of uncertain about that. But she seemed really busy. So I was just like, hey, I don't know where this nurse is that's on for this room. I'm a student dietitian. I'm just hoping that we can get a more accurate weight. Because she seemed to be like the kind of head nurse, kind of delegating. So I was hoping that, like, we can get a weight on her some point soon. And she's like, oh, yeah, we can get on that. And, like, I knew it wouldn't be anytime soon. I mean, they're all busy and they have stuff to do before they do a weight for a dietetic student. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think they acknowledged it, too, so that was good.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. I like hearing about your guys' experience. To clarify, our group is currently split up into 3. There's 13 of us total, I think. Mm-hmm. And 2 groups are going to one hospital, and then there's one group at another hospital. And I'm in the smaller group at Mercy Hospital. Julia's in the bigger group. Not bigger group, like your group is the same size, but you meet Wednesdays at Sisters. There's another group that meets Mondays at Sisters. And there's 4 of us that meet Wednesdays, at Mercy. And having one day a week is also really challenging, because we don't get to apply our skills more than once a week.
Yeah. But I do kind of like that it's a longer day instead of being, like, 4 hours, because thinking of what we do, even just, like, before lunchtime, like, there's so much we do, and, like, we only really see one patient before lunch, and then I'm like, okay, then I go home. At least I get to have a little bit more time in the hospital, and, like, if I need to ask a question that I forgot to ask, like, before lunch, then I can go back after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is nice to be there the full day, and also just to get used to being in a hospital when, like, most of our schooling so far has been in a classroom or over Zoom, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm kind of burnt out of Zoom classes. I don't know about you, but
some more so than others, and I think you know who and what class I'm referring to.
Absolutely, yes.
Because sometimes it's just unnecessary, and I think it's, like, other people, like, in the workforce and, like, having to do work from home and, like, Zoom meetings. It's like, oh, this meeting could have been an email. Mm-hmm. This class could have been just a set of instructions that you emailed to everyone, and we could have done it and not wasted our time. But it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, we're like a third of the way done with the semester now, and I don't know how I'm going to do 2 more thirds over Zoom, but we're going to do it. Like, it's going to get done.
Somehow, it will. Just got to get through the end of each week, I keep telling myself.
Yeah. That's true. Let me see what else. Oh, let's, like, talk about dietetics as a whole, as, like, a field. Get some hot takes. So, based on our program, we go to DUville. It is a very small dietetics program, but I think it's pretty well known in the field. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite part of the program so far?
Favorite part of the program so far? I feel like it's some of the professors. Like, we have some pretty phenomenal professors that make it so worthwhile and so fascinating. And first of all, they're super helpful. They understand what we're going through because obviously they have been through it as registered dietitians themselves. So I really like and appreciate that, especially now with everything being online. There's a lot more coursework than I feel like there would be in person almost because we're at home. So I feel like a lot of them really respect us and they want to help us on our journey, and they're going to give us as much resources and as help as they can give us, and I really appreciate that. So having that is huge. And then, again, I think being in Buffalo is great with this program because we have such a huge medical campus and community that can make for some really great opportunities in different fields. I mean, I don't think I necessarily want to work in hospitals, but to do like a clinical rotation through Roswell or through Children's, like that I think is really cool. Because we have these big, huge hospitals that are, some of them are known nationwide.
Yeah, that's very true. We have big, big hospitals. Coming from a small town that has like one.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see just the scope of like the medical system up here. Do you know where you want to do your specialty rotation? That's kind of off topic, but I'm curious.
I don't know yet. I think I have some ideas because like I kind of am thinking about like, okay, what do I kind of want to focus on? What do I want to go into? I think pediatrics is honestly really fascinating.
Yeah.
And, like, I know we do Children's Hospital, but I would love to do more with, like, the pediatric community.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, because, I mean, when you're young, so much of what's happening around you shapes you and your choices that you make.
Yeah.
And I think, hitting that target audience when they're young, we can really make a lot of, like, impact and change.
Yeah, that's really neat. During your undergrad, you did like an internship where you did work with kids at some point, right?
So I did research over, it was 2 summers I did research because Canisius, they do a camp every summer for children with autism. Mm-hmm. It's with the Institute of Autism Research. I can't remember the acronym or the correct name, but it's something like that. Where it's a great summer camp where they teach these kids, there's different age groups, but they teach them, coping skills and, like, ways to interact and show emotion, like a lot of things that kids with autism or individuals with autism in general struggle with. And our research aspect was introducing, like, a physical activity component, because physical activity has been shown to help reduce a lot of the tics or, staying focused on certain tasks and things like that, and emotional outbursts. So providing some form of physical activity would help with that. Mm-hmm. And that was where our research was. And I loved working with the kids. First of all, children with autism are amazing, mm-hmm. as all kids are, but, like, they will blow your minds. Like, there was this one kid who could tell you every element on the periodic table, like its number, every aspect of information about it. Like, I think he was 7. Mm-hmm. And just, like, they're sweet, they're funny. I remember the one year I got new glasses. They're these round ones I'm wearing now. I know you guys can't see them, but, like, they're round, like, think Harry Potter. And literally the one kid came up to me and he's like, Miss Julia, you look like Harry Potter today. And then the rest of the day I was Miss Harry Potter.
I love that.
And it was the cutest thing. So, yeah, I love doing that and working with that age group. Mm-hmm. Some days more frustrating than others. But that's, for sure. I mean, that's working with any individual. Mm-hmm. People can be very frustrating and annoying.
Yeah, for sure. It's never the same thing. You never get bored.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I feel like that'd be a really great application of the skills that you learned during your, like, internship or research that you did on your undergrad. That's cool.
Yeah.
Going back to dietetics, what is your favorite part of the field in general?
The field in general. Favorite part. I mean, I feel like there's honestly, it's a bigger but a smaller community of us, because we are, again, like, a kind of underappreciated field and not really, mm-hmm. I wouldn't say most people don't know about it. So I think that when we do get together, we get really excited, and a lot of great things come from a lot of brilliant registered dietitians' minds when they work together, whether it's research or just forms of practice and things like that. So I think that's really great. Like, the community we have as registered dietitians, like, even separate from, like, being in the academy and things like that, I just think if we were to interact with other dietitians, we'd all click instantly, and, like, what we do together could be, like, brilliant.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's kind of funny, like, to me, the dietetics archetype, which I fit perfectly, like, we all kind of do.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, super type A, on the ball, like, always ready to, like, start a project or something. And when we sit together in class, or when we talk to dietitians that are out in the field practicing, like, ideas just flow so wonderfully. And that's really cool. I think it's also because we have such great professors that, like, facilitate the discussion so well to make us, like, feel like we are creating wonderful things. But yeah, I agree. It is really neat, and the community is super cool.
Yeah.
Like, at Fancy last year, I'm so hoping that they have Fancy next year in New Orleans. I'm hoping that works.
Yeah, because New Orleans.
Is but, like, phenomenal. In Philadelphia, we, like, dietitians took over the city. Like, I'd be walking with my mom and, like, point to people and be like, they're dietitians. And she'd be like, how do you know? And I was just like,
they're
dietitians. You just know.
It's like telepathy.
It's so
like,
funny.
you just look at them and you know.
It is, yeah. It is really, like, it's an understanding that you kind of develop with anyone else in the field, which is
Oh, yeah.
so funny. Flipping that around a little bit, what's a part of dietetics that you'd like to see change?
Diversity.
Yeah.
Diversity. We are widely a white field, which is sad because America and the entire world is not white.
Yeah.
There are white people, but we do not make up everything. So I think diversity in the field is a huge stepping stone, and it's going to take time, as all things do, but I think it's so worth it, and so worth it to put money towards improving diversity and keeping that diversity going.
100%, yeah, I agree. I read actually a super interesting article. I'll link it in the show notes, but it was about, like, not necessarily dietitians directly, although this article was written about a dietitian. No names were mentioned, but just about, like, the co-opting of body positivity by white dietitians, like, in that space.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating just learning about the history of the field too, that is not always positive, and the intentions of dietetics as a whole have not always been, like, they've been positive for the time, but they have been, like, very targeted at, like, specifically weight loss or changing people's bodies or kind of painting one body type as less desirable than another. And a lot of that is, like, rooted in white supremacy. The article describes it far better than I am right now.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, and I definitely agree. Diversify Dietetics is I think it's like a practice group, a DPG.
It is, yeah.
Everyone should look it up and join it if you're not already, or at least, like, get involved. It's a movement
And do your part, too. Like, I remember, especially this past year when a lot of things were going on, obviously, and there's a lot going on, and just, like, you know, like, showcasing Black and people of color voices and, like, doing your part. And so I remember, like, with Balanced Buffalonian, like, I didn't want to overstep because it wasn't my time to speak up. But I would share resources or share accounts that, like, I really liked that they were speaking up, and I wanted to be, like, a supportive ally, to be like, hey, listen to these voices, look at what they're doing, follow them, like them, support them. And I think that's just important too.
Yeah, show up for the dietitians who are making an active effort, and not just dietitians, obviously, but activists, but specifically dietitians who are making an active effort to diversify the field. It really needs it.
Yeah, because I knew I was struggling with what I could do.
Yeah.
But also realizing I know that there's only so much I can do. And there's points where I should step back because, again, I shouldn't be the one speaking on it because I don't have that right to. So, again, for me, it was just important to show support and be, like, really actively supportive.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a really good point to bring up. I feel very passionately about Diversify Dietetics. I'm also pretty sure that there is maybe not a podcast about it, but there's a bunch of other resources. I'll link them all in the show notes because everyone needs to know about it. To want to go into dietetics means that you should also want to support Diversify Dietetics.
Exactly.
They go together. You can't have one without the other.
I mean, just in the healthcare field alone, too. Like, you're in the healthcare field to treat other people. Not everyone is going to look like you or think like you, but you have to work with them to give them the best care possible.
100%. Yeah. It's all about meeting in the middle and doing your part to uplift people whenever possible.
Exactly.
Sure. So before we, like, wrap up here, I have to ask you, like, the final question.
Ooh, okay.
It sounds a little cheesy. But Julia, why dietetics?
Aw, cute. I love that. That's your first time asking it. How do you feel before I answer it?
I feel a little, like, odd. Like, part of me is a little scared to do this because I know it's not going to be perfect, and I know that I'm going to mess up, like, audio editing, and, like, I don't really know what I'm doing. But it is really cool to, like, actually be creating something that not only is a new skill for me, but I get to listen to really interesting people talk about what they love. So,
yay, fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like with that too, like I'm sure I sound like an idiot half the time. I mean, I really don't have much of a filter sometimes, which might be an issue, but it's fine. We just go with it. So I'm sorry if I said anything like
oh my
stupid.
gosh. No,
Just,
you're
like,
always very well spoken, and I'm really thrilled that you were willing to be my guinea pig guest.
Of course.
And I'm hoping that this like continues and that there can be like take twos and we can like continually keep the conversation going.
I would love that.
Amazing.
But okay, back to your question. Why dietetics? Because, who was it? Was it Socrates that said food is medicine?
Let thy medicine be thy food. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's Socrates. One of those Greek people. Whatever. Why couldn't I think of the word? What's the word, Riley?
Hippocrates.
Hippocrates. But
Sorry.
Socrates, Plato, what were they?
Philosophers?
Philosophers. That's the word. See, people, words are hard sometimes.
We know things.
I know their names. But yeah. So food is medicine. I mean, it can, it's how you keep functioning as a human being. Mm-hmm. It does so much for just taking a step forward, thinking about something. Like food runs your entire body. It's the battery of every human being. And I just think educating ourselves on food and educating other people on food and helping others create healthy relationships with food and positive relationships with food. And I just think that's so important. And I want to be a part of that because, one, I love food. Who doesn't? But once you get to know what food really does and you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, that chemistry that we all loved so much, it's really fascinating. And I just think, like, food is a universal value, too. Mm-hmm. Everyone can at least relate to food somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And I think educating that and empowering education on food and empowering others to have education on food and nutrition and to build those relationships, I think that's really something else. So I want to be a part of that.
Wow. That was so eloquent and beautiful. That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're
I did
welcome.
not think those words were coming out well. I was just kind of going.
I'll listen back to it. You'll know if it's something spunky, I promise. But it was really good.
Like, edit it like John Mulaney and that one. Like she was beautiful. her words were so eloquently spoken.
Aw, she's ugly.
Such a good comedy.
I need to watch a John Mulaney. I can't not laugh when I'm watching him. So maybe
you really
that would
can.
be a good Friday evening plan for me this week.
It's a good stress relief, for sure.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. Really quick, before we go, plug yourself. Like, where can we find you?
Oh, okay. So you guys can find me on Instagram as @BalancedBuffalonian. If you want to follow my private account too, feel free. I'll always take another follower, because why not? It's Julia Stankowski. But yeah, and then maybe one day I'll have a website too, and you guys can follow me on there and follow me on my journey.
Yay! Well, thank you so much, Julia. This was amazing.
Thank you. I was honored to be your first guest.
And there we have it. Is she not just the loveliest? Thank you so much, Julia, for being willing to be my guinea pig first guest on the show. I hope that you enjoyed the experience. I know we both had a couple awkward moments where we were just like staring at each other, like, where do we go next? But I think it ended up pretty great, and there's a lot of insightful pieces in the episode that I was really grateful to listen back to and really get to pull out myself that I didn't even realize were happening when we were talking and I was interviewing her. I don't like calling it an interview. That still feels a little strange. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to do the thing that Allie Ward does. If anybody listens to the Ologies podcast, sorry, Dad, I'm stealing it from you, where I tell you a secret at the end of every episode. And I think today's secret is going to be that I own upwards of 50 plants, and I don't see myself stopping buying them anytime soon. I realize it's a problem. I realize I'm contributing to the inflation of houseplant prices, but I just can't help myself. They're so stinking beautiful. Okay, is that a good secret? I guess that's a good secret. I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.